Boomerang.
Okay, then the Boomerang was the Phoenix Lights in '97. Thousands of people saw that, and that one, Faith Symington, the governor at that time, admitted that he had lied to the public, that he, in fact, saw it himself, but during the time that the sightings were occurring, he ridiculed everyone who said they saw it.
Yeah, I remember that story. Skeptics, of course, and some others, actually from the ground as well, said that they were actually a flock of geese or something of that nature, or a flock of birds or something of that nature, flying in a V pattern, and the lights that they were seeing was actually illumination from the city lights reflecting off the underbellies of the birds.
Well, they'd have to be some pretty large bird, but you know, how are you going to account for blacking out the stars when the thing passes over? You know, a bird might, if he's not dropping something on you, he might produce some sort of shadow when you look up, but he's not going to produce a mile wide blackout of the sky. So, and by the way, the pilots in Stevensville say that the actual size of the objects may have been up to 3 football fields long, which coincides with the size of the Phoenix Light sighting.
Right.
That was triangulated by people from different parts of the city, and that's how they come up with the actual size.
See, and it's interesting. I guess me being on the other end, there were also some other people who claimed that they worked at the mast too, and it was actually smaller and closer than what people thought it was. They thought it was further away than it really was. But you're right. My first question, though, was, however, well, if they were closer, then how come no one heard anything? If they're really that close, and we just made misjudgments, then we should have heard these geese, because they make a heck of a lot of noise when they're flying over.
Well, absolutely,
and they're I don't think they fly. You don't fly that late at night, but from what I remember.
Well, you know, here's I don't know to further the story, and I don't know what audience you have there, but in the Stevensville sightings, the military claimed for 2 weeks they had no planes in the air, and they said with this preposterous explanation that it was a mirage from a 747. But 2 weeks later, the same military people came out and said, oh, by the way, we just remembered we had 10 F-16s flying over Stephenville. And I'm thinking, okay, what were they doing? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm totally skeptical of that.
Yeah.
That claim doesn't. It's very rare at all. You'll have any Air Force base at all flying 10 planes for anything.
Yeah, that's
at
the story.
At one time.
Well,
right.
I think what they were doing, they were a new kind of crop dusting. So maybe with Stevensville.
Okay, so I'm kind of with you that some of the excuses that we do here are definitely ridiculous. But let's back up a minute. Let's talk about what are UFOs. Obviously, we know what the acronym stands for, but you tell the listeners here, when you say UFO, what are you thinking?
Well, it's the classic definitions. It's just it is unidentified because typically there are no markings. In the Stephenville UFO, they said there were no markings on it. They were close enough to see. There were no seams. There were no windows. So it is unidentified as far as any sort of terrestrial markings at all. Flying, obviously, it is flying, whether it's hovering or whether it's materializing. It is flying in the atmosphere. Otherwise, the opposite of that would be landed. And then object, certainly that's just because they come in so many various shapes and forms, from, as you said, V shapes, boomerang shapes, the classic cigar, the ovals. Right. They come in a lot more varieties than even that, and we have time to discuss. Those are the main ones, though.
Right. Okay, so basically we're in agreement here that UFO, we're talking just simply unidentified flying object, and that's it. But surely you agree with me that many people, when they say I saw UFOs, they really think they really know what it is. Their belief automatically goes to, there are aliens piloting a spacecraft. Mm-hmm. I bump into that a lot, and would you agree with me that that's an unfair assessment for people to make right away?
Okay, right, yeah, and but I think if you look at the qualifications of the people that are used as witnesses, the eyewitness accounts, in the beginning of the phenomena of identifying these things, or people coming out with their stories, they were people running through the woods. They would portray them as Appalachian type that can't spell, or just stereotypes, just dumb hicks, running through the woods with a gun saying I saw a UFO. Well, you know what, in all the years that I've seen and heard testimonies, I have not yet heard anyone that fit those descriptions, because now it's pilots, it's governors, it's police officers, so the credibility gap has been closed tight. And they're not even getting people, because they don't need to find loose cannons out there, because they're overwhelmed by the amount of legitimate identifiers and testifiers of what they see. Now, as far as do they have a predetermination of what they're going, what it is once they see an unidentified flying object? Or do they have a predilection that may be planted by the news media or by the sheer amount of stories? Probably, I would agree with you on that.
Okay. All right, I don't know what that was about. I guess the aliens are trying to communicate again. Okay, let's pick it back up.
Well, now see, I wouldn't discount that, and I'll tell you why. Because several times we've had people call into the show. We have an 800 number, and guests that didn't know each other from anything told me that when they called the program that they got the NSA. And so the first time I heard that, I thought, okay, well, that's crazy. And then the second time I heard that, a couple months later, I was thinking, okay, well, either we have the same number as NSA or they don't like what's being talked about on the program.
Oh, my gosh.
And let me tell you,
why would the NSA even be interested in your work? Not to be here, but why would they be interested in what you're talking about?
Well,
do you have guests on here that claim to have been insiders?
Absolutely. And let me tell you something about that. If you do a search on, it's only because it's so relevant and I know so much information about it, the Stephenville sightings, the main pilot that has been on all the news programs in the last couple of weeks, he has been harassed by the military, by helicopter flyovers and jet flyovers, his ranch. And he's been the main one disputing the fact that there were 10 F-16s. What he said was there was 2 F-16s that were flying after this UFO. And but he has been harassed, and that was published in that newspaper in Stevensville. By the way, the woman, the editor that was taking all the calls and has been on the national shows, actually was forced to quit that newspaper because of those UFO reports. Mm-hmm. So will they harass you? Yes, they will.
In some ways, I can believe this, and I'm going to tell you one reason why. But first, I think let's back up to actual aliens visiting us and piloting some of these vessels. Do you believe that we're being visited by extraterrestrials?
I would have to say yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you thought of this. Why do you think they're here?
Mm-hmm. Now that is the correct question, to take it from iRobot. And so you see, we've come past, I believe, and most people believe we're past now. Are they here? I think I could have gone
even back. I could have said, "How did they get here?" But first we'll just stick to why they.
Yeah, I think we can move on now to the why are they here. Now, initially, the are they here came with all the insults. Anyone, there's a system in place to ridicule and belittle anyone and call them, as we made some stereotypes mentions earlier, somebody with an aluminum hat or somebody running through the woods, some nutcase running out there. That was the first 10 years of describing a person who's seen a UFO. But now you can't say that about Faith Simonton, and you can't say that about pilots and doctors and lawyers and judges. You can't say that anymore. That excuse is gone. So now we've come to, okay, well, maybe they're here. Okay, maybe they are here. Okay, they're here, but why are they here? Now we're rolling out the same system on the why, which is one of the things the Edge is trying to find out is we know they're here, but what is the why? The why is, to me, again, as I said at the beginning of the program, you present to me a plausible story as to why and why you think it's this way. Why are they here? And if it works and it's plausible and it fits through time and history and other eyewitnesses' accounts, then we may get to some sort of truth as to why they are. Now, last week we just had on our program Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell, and he told me that he expects full disclosure within 2 years. And he said most of the astronauts have seen him, although he personally hasn't seen them, but he knows they're here. Now, why are they here? This is kind of a funny case, Reginald, because if I ever want to click a pause button on an interview, it's when a guest starts to tell me that they're here because we're polluting the planet, we're not helping the poor, we're not voting Democrat. They might as well just say it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can almost see a political bend into why the aliens are here. And similarly, if say a Republican would get on and say, they're here